do have moments in which I do breathing exercises. There was this one gentleman said, don't breathe through your head, breathe through your heart. And I started that practice, and it makes a difference. My wife bought me a painting, well, not a painting, but like a print. It says my brain has too many tabs open. That's something that I kind of struggle with, even with trying to go to sleep. So it's very hard for me to quiet my brain.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when I say, you know what, we talk to God, you know, and I
Yeah.
ask for instruction. I'm grateful for my experiences. Try to bless and be grateful for as many people that are in my life or who will come into my life as possible.
Hey, everyone. Let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and welcome to episode 142 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. Well, I'm slightly under the weather today. If my voice sounds a little funny, bear with me. And my guest is, wow, a very socially conscious artist, Dakoro Edwards. What a good conversation we had. Dakoro is a well known artist in the metro Atlanta area and beyond. He is based here in metro Atlanta, actually in Sandy Springs, which is a little bit outside of downtown Atlanta. And we talk about why his work is so important to him beyond the creativity, why connecting with youth and the world and society and having a message really about how we have to care about each other, how we have to do better. And we're only on this planet for a finite period of time. So we are called to do higher things than we may be doing. And he is answering the call. Well, more to come. He is going to be with you in just a moment. I want to remind you to subscribe to the Let's Start Healing podcast. You can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Share Let's Start Healing with at least one person that you know. Decoro is frequently at events, whether locally or traveling to another city. And he is known, one of the things he's known for is creating paintings live in person while you're there and you're watching him in his process. So he will mention towards the end of the conversation two events that he was at very recently, in fact, this week. So let's get to it. Let's meet him. Let's get started and let's start healing. Welcome, Decoro.
Thank you for having me, Adrienne.
It's great to have you on. And actually, I think it was like during the pandemic when I ran into you in the store, in the grocery store, and brought up my podcast and wanted
Yeah.
to have you on. So,
You stay diligent with your community involvement, the journalism, things like that. So I know eventually it will come full circle.
yeah, yes, yes. And I was just saying to you that I want to talk about your art and how you are a socially conscious artist. And I want to bring up something to you that might make you laugh, or you might be like, look, I was serious because I know you were serious.
Right.
We were talking earlier this year before the event at Sandy Springs where you did the live painting that turned out to be Dexter King.
Right.
And so we were talking though about you being conscious and things being important to you. And you said to me, I'm not fucking around. That's what you said. And I completely got it. Like that like touched me, that touched my heart because I really feel like that about life. That's why this podcast is so important to me because I feel like it's important that we decide who we want to be in life, how we're
Right.
going to show up in life because I'm not fucking around, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So talk about that for me and your art and why the meaning behind your artwork and how that, I know it's a big question, but how that swelled for you. Like it
Well,
wasn't necessarily like that in the beginning, right?
well, what it is when I make a statement like that, it's more so where I'm pulling my inspiration from, and um, who it's going back out to. And so, like when I make that type of statement, I'm not fucking around. At that time, I was just tired of um, the excuses of why kids aren't being shared certain relevant, necessary information instead of the around the bubble, this, that, do that. Like, there's a big need for sincerity right now. There's a big need for you to be who you say you are. There's a requirement for you to, if you, and this is just a little analogy, they say, don't wake up a woman's heart
Don't wake up a woman's heart.
unless you plan on staying there and nourishing it. And I feel that way about society, about community, but especially the kids. And it's just you get to a point, and now that I have a 2-year-old daughter and my wife have a 12-year-old son, and I've always been community involved, especially being a master barber, watching kids grow up, watching adults pivot from one career to the other, watching um, inner city communities go through gun violence, go through planting gardens and stuff. I just got to the point where it's like there is no more wiggle room for, I wonder what if, should I? Fuck that. Do it. Because that's your God's purpose. That's what you've been here. That's what you've been put here for.
Mhm.
And so after a certain amount of years on this planet, I'm not saying you should know what it is that you want to do, but you feel it in your heart what it is that makes you feel good. Stop playing around with it.
Be on the path. Be on the path.
Right. And that's exactly what you've done since I've met you years ago.
Right,
So,
right.
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And was it something going on in the world around that time, or was there something going on with you in your life at that time that made you feel so strongly in that moment and going forward?
I think for me in that specific moment, it was, I had moved away for 2 years and came back to Georgia. So, let's just say Georgia. And I hadn't been in that live painting space in a while. And when I started painting, and there's a lot of people I could thank for making that happen. But when I started painting, my back was to everyone. And then
Right.
when I turned around and I saw all these cameras pointed at me, and it was like everybody was there for my gift, for my inclusion, for my past and recent community, involvement. And that, along with it being a great, overwhelming show of like, thank you, my gratitude, it showed me everything that I've always been attached to. And again, you're not playing around with this. You
And
know,
when you say, I want people to understand, you're not saying you had stopped painting because you have never stopped painting, right?
no,
It's
no, no.
about painting live, doing a live painting in
Right.
front of people.
There was a moment that I took personal time to myself, from owning the first black owned art gallery in Sandy Springs to COVID hitting to getting married to having a kid, a daughter at that. There was a lot that happened in a short time. And actually, me, when I'm on stage, when I'm painting live, nothing else exists. And I hadn't been there in public in quite some time. So to turn around and acknowledge, like, everything was silent. I wasn't hearing anything. I was just looking. Everything, I was just like, wow, this is that feeling. That's my dopamine.
Yes. Has it been like that since you started painting as a child? Like, what spoke to you when you said, "This is what I wanna do always"? Because there's many people who are artists, and it may not be their whole life. Like, there may be somebody who's an actor, but they
Right,
have a regular job.
right.
But
Right.
what speaks to you when from if you remember from the earliest times, what is it that about painting that and art that speaks to you?
It's just you and your utensils. It's just you and your pencil or your paper or your canvas or your paintbrush or what have you. And you have a very realistic opportunity of turning the volume down on everything. You have a very realistic opportunity to say, you know what, I don't have to speak a word out of my mouth. This is how I view things. And it's not I hate to put it this way, but it's not what's the word I'm looking for, where you're being manipulative, but in a sense you are when it comes to your creativity and to your voice. I can look at this screen right now in the way that you're placed in front of the microphone and your facial expressions, and I can capture that and create a whole nother story to it of a woman that's focused, that's determined, that's, and I could tie it into most recent events with, the Democratic Party in this current election coming up. You know what I'm saying? So you get a
Yes,
chance to really turn things, and that's where it gets kind of purposeful because with the ability to do that, you have to know who to point that at. You have to understand who is going to receive that, um, and who's not going to receive it. And you have to be strong enough for those that aren't going to receive it the way you intended it. But there's also opportunities in which it will be taken out of context and people will run with it and create a whole nother narrative. So that
that's
to me
really
is,
that's really big. You have to be mindful of who's going to receive it and who's not going to receive it,
right.
and the reaction from those who won't receive it.
Hmm. And
That's
that's the part where you have to be, um, I'm not saying you have to be, but it would be required that you are a person that can withstand those hits, that can withstand the praises. Oh, you're great, Adrian. Or, you know what? I don't like that podcast you did with Dakoro. I don't like nothing about it. That's not going to deter you. It's not going to deter me because that one person is one out of maybe 100 that will actually receive something from the content.
right. And that is what matters.
Mhm.
But you have to realize that's what matters in this day and age where popularity is so valued.
Well, that's the funny thing. It's always mattered. It just wasn't as instantly accessible.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, so have you received a lot of people who've given you feedback of, what you're depicting here, the message that's coming out of this, I don't appreciate, or you haven't received anything like that?
The most, I guess, criticism, so to speak, would be, I don't understand it. And I'm not shy with my words. I'm able to communicate with a client, with a customer, or what have you, or a possible collector. And I don't necessarily ask, what is it that you don't understand? I ask, what is it that you see then? I've already created it. Now it's up to you to interpret it the way you want to. You don't have to like it.
I want to speak to some of the things that you've actually done, the actions that you've taken around what we're talking about, especially when you're talking about kids, because you had told me about when you had your gallery in Sandy Springs, Georgia, you had speaker events, right? And that was for the youth.
That was for the youth. That was for, well, actually, what it was for, juniors and high schools, juniors and seniors in high schools, um, all through college, and then adults that were maybe possibly looking for a career change. And the way it was set up, I always had a financial person there. I always had somebody that was dealing with the law, whether it was a police officer or an attorney or something like that. And then it would span from actors, estheticians, barbers, fashion designers, um, producers, films, things like that that are kind of eye catching. But whoever attended the seminar was able to talk to someone directly. They didn't have to go and search their name or whatever, and that's what it was really for. So the seminar only went for maybe 45 minutes, but the Q&A went for an additional hour. So you can walk up to great people like Dwayne Cummings and be like, how did you do this? How did you do that? How did you become this best-selling author? Or Brandis Allen, who was one of the top pediatrics in the country. Ron Watterson, who is currently and still kicking butt, grew from. He's one of the top criminal lawyers in the nation. So these are all just good people, and these are actually my friends.
And you were providing access for them.
Access free of charge.
Amazing. And then Draw with Dakoro, that's an online art forum, right?
That's an
Classes?
online class that kids can sign up, and it's themed every 4 weeks. So there's once a week there's a different theme, and I've worked with maybe about 7 different organizations across the country. During COVID, at one point, I got up to maybe 3,500 kids a week, and just showing them that you don't have to be an artist, but creating artwork is a form, is an outlet. You don't have to be the best, you don't have to be the worst. Just create what it is that you want. It doesn't have to look like Jason's or look like Sheila's or Emily's. But the way I, that actually made me feel very proud when I started that, because all of the kids knew I was going to call on them at some point. You were not going to escape. Hey, Adrienne, let's see what you're working on. And the way that I did it was, everybody's going to get called on, but after you show your artwork, let's give Adrienne a round of applause, everybody. Yay, yay. We had special needs kids and all of that. So it was inclusive. Nobody felt left out, regardless of their autistic level. And I still have that going on now, but I'm going to really revamp it for the 2024-25 school year.
That has to really build up self-confidence for
Yeah,
them.
because imagine adults went through some stuff with COVID. Imagine the kids. There was absolutely pretty much no interaction at all, unless your parents let you go outside the house in your community. But you're not getting on a bus going to school and going to the cafeteria and switching classes and seeing this person. All of that stopped instantly. That's a shock.
Is there something common themes that you hear from youth, whether they're really young or they're teenagers, during your different activities, whether it's a speaking event or classes or just interacting with youth, because that is very important to you and it's a time to focus
Right.
on them. What are you hearing from them in terms of needs or even what they're observing?
Um, as far as what they may ask me or what I might observe of them.
What they may ask you, what they may bring up, or what you observe from them.
That's where it actually gets fun, is because I try to switch up the topics and the themes so that you're never experiencing the same hour-long curriculum at the same time. But I don't necessarily let them ask me questions. I ask them questions. Like, Arnold, you had every opportunity to draw this square with a black crayon or a black marker, but why'd you choose orange? Oh, I chose orange because I like oranges, and when I drink orange juice, it makes me feel better. You know what? That's perfect. High five. It's constantly building their self-esteem, no matter what it is
Yeah.
that they choose to create. And I encourage them, don't follow what I'm doing. This is just a blueprint. I
Yeah.
want you, if we choose the word love, what color does the word love mean to you? Some people, it's red. Other people, I love flowers. It might be green. I love the sky. It might be blue. And I just try to encourage them, no matter what decision you make based off what I ask you, your decision is yours, and we applaud you for it. And no matter what they create, when it's at the end of the session, they feel better about themselves because nobody controlled what it is that they were trying to express.
How old are you?
I've been around block couple times, but I'm 50 years old.
Are you? I
Sure.
thought you were gonna say, like, at first I thought you might say like 43, and I was like, he's probably a little bit older, maybe 46, 47.
Yeah, I was 43,
Wow.
46, 47 about 7 years ago.
Did you do something special for your 50th?
Um, I did a little something. The biggest part was, my baby girl singing happy birthday to me when she was just learning how to talk.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I'm changing her diaper. And she was like, they have been practicing it all week in her daycare. And I'm changing her diaper the morning of my birthday. She's like, happy birthday, dear daddy. I still got it saved on my phone.
So, I want to ask you some spiritual questions because I just can't see you not being spiritual with everything that we're talking about and you being an artist. What is spirituality to you? I mean, I think of spirituality and everybody has, different ideas. I think of it as a relationship for me with God. But
Mhm.
what is spirituality for you?
Um, I could say I would attest to the same thing, a connection with God. Um, I would say that it is a connection with your conscience, it's a connection with your gut, it's a connection that you have with the universe. But most importantly, when you look in that mirror, it's the connection you have with yourself. I've been fortunate to be around different cultures with different religious backgrounds. Um, and to be honest with you, since I've grown up, they all seem to say the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So
I do.
that's where it is. But praying is important. Um, being kind is important. Being generous is important. Being grateful is extremely important, and that's what I kind of look out for with myself and when it comes to other people. I'm a big believer in energy,
Yeah.
and for some reason, I'm able to. Some people walk around with a real thick aura about them, a real thick energy about them. You can see it in their facial expressions. You could hear it in the tone of their voice. You can see it in their body movement. And like I said, I've been a master barber for over 30 years. So when people come through that door, used to come to the art gallery, or even when I'm doing a show or I'm going to a school to go teach or what have you, I look at who's in charge. I watch their energy and their aura first because that has been placed on the people that I'm about to talk to. So
Mhm.
spirituality is very important.
Well, I'm wondering if you would consider yourself an empath because I'm an empath and I have to be careful about other people's energy. And so that I don't take it on and feel it.
I used to have a problem with that. So I don't know if you can be an empath and not be an empath later on. I know very much so I was an empath and when it came to barbering. And I grew my clientele up very quickly. Um, and I found myself taking on everybody's, you're talking to 30 people a day, sometimes about the same topic, unless it gets personal. You're taking in all these different voices and opinions and views on life and views on this. And you go home and your voices, your thoughts, is buried so deep that you can lose yourself.
Yeah.
But what got me to a space where I was able to balance that is that I come from a huge family. There's over 200 people on my mother's side of my family, and I have to remember like at any given time there could be 25 people in your house from different walks, even though they're family, different walks of life. And then when you go outside, Syracuse, New York, anywhere that you go, you're seeing and meeting that. So I'm like, yo, hold on, I ain't got to take these people's problems on. All I do is keep them in the chair for the duration I'm providing this service. But as they become repeat customers, clients, then you do start remembering things and stuff. You start remembering the meat and potatoes of who they are, and not what they're trying to dump off on you. So I
Right.
don't know if I don't know if I am still an empath, but I don't feel like I used to feel when I identified as being that way.
Right. Well, you care about other people and you see other points of view, but you don't take it on.
One of my favorite phrases is I help you lift your load, but I'm not going to carry
Mm-hmm. Yes. Don't
you.
make your problems my problems. Or you're not gonna make your problems my problems.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Exactly. So do you most feel the spirit of God when you're doing your artwork? I usually ask people when they most feel God, uh, like they feel like a visceral connection to the spirit of God. And I'm wondering if it's when you're painting or is it maybe it's with your daughter or your wife or when does that happen?
Mine's is every day, all day. Every day, all day. Like I don't necessarily think you need to pray out loud to, your higher being. You just have a thought to say thank you. I appreciate that. I got stuck at this light for a reason. Then something happened. It's like, oh man, I could have went and gone, thank you. Or you know what? The sun is shining. That
Yeah.
allows me to do thank you. I'm that type of person. God is with me all day, every day.
Yeah.
I can't put that on the sideline. You might put me on the sideline.
No, and I didn't mean it that way. I love what
No,
you
I know, I
said
know, I
because
know.
that's gratitude right there.
Yeah.
Is so important. And I was thinking like there's times the most recent time for me was yesterday where I've been trying to just stay connected all the time because that helps me in terms of my life.
Mhm.
But yesterday when I was praying and meditating in a certain way and I really felt God like in my chest, like in my heart and spirit. Like I felt like this visceral and it doesn't last like that feeling. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. So, it might only last like a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds or, because there's only so long I can bear that.
Right.
But then there's other times where I feel it and it might not be that strong, but I just feel the presence of God. I mean, and I'm saying that understanding that God is with me no matter what, period.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I was just wondering if there's moments and maybe I don't know. I don't want to speak for you.
Well, no, no. Well, there's moments in which I do recognize I've moved too far away from where I was supposed to be right now. I feel that like, oh shit. So, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
then I do have moments in which I do breathing exercises. There was this one gentleman said, don't breathe through your head, breathe through your heart. And I started that practice, and it makes a difference. With me, I keep a. My wife bought me a painting. Well, not a painting, but like a print. It says my brain has too many tabs open. That's something that I kind of struggle with, even with trying to go to sleep. Like most recently for me, it could be a Jodeci song popped in my head. Then there was a commercial that popped in, and there's something else that's going what I'm working on. So it's very hard for me to quiet my brain.
yeah,
Um, and that's when I say, you know what, we talk to God, you know, and I
yeah,
ask for instruction. I'm grateful for my experiences. Try to bless and be grateful for as many people that are in my life or who will come into my life as possible, and then just keep asking for instruction.
yeah. You've dropped so many gems.
Really? You think
Yeah,
so?
so many words of wisdom in this conversation. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
must be having a good day today.
4 or 5. So, is there something you can share where you experienced a blessing or a miracle and you said, "This was completely God. I had nothing to do with this."
Hmm. The birth of my daughter is one. Um, Let me say because I don't want to get too graphic. Um, Me not getting hit by a city bus.
Really?
I had no idea that I was about to cross the street. This this 18-foot bus came out of nowhere, and for some reason, I turned. I hate to put this analogy out there, but similar to what 45 did at the so-called
Yes. Yes.
I did the same thing. In the mirror of the bus, licked my ear.
Wow.
And I stood back like, yeah, there was no reason I did not take that step off. Because I was going in that direction. And he was like, nah.
You were on a curb about to step off and was leaning forward and
Mm-hmm.
wow. How long did that go ahead?
There's a few more. I have way too many instances. Not too many, but I have a few experiences in which, like, you can't tell me there's no existence of a higher power because some of the things that I've experienced and been through, nah, I was never that bright to get myself up out of that.
And we may have already talked about this, but what do you think God calls you to do for you and for other people in your work, in your art work?
Um,
And when I say in your artwork, I mean in the career and profession that you're in as an artist.
I think it's and there's probably more than one answer to this, but I really truly believe that it's to be an inspiration, to motivate, to um people don't come to me, whether it be kids, adults, or whatever, with sob stories because they know I don't go for that shit. Like, I is this the worst that it could possibly be for you? Yeah, Uncle D. Yeah, D, it's the worst. All right, that's the best time to pour it all out. That's the best time to trust in God. That's the best time to look at the skill sets that you're trying to learn or that you do have already and put it in work. It's called accountability. If you don't know it, research is like you said. In this time that we're living in where everything is so accessible and all of that, so is information. Either you want it or you don't, you know? All right. God is putting you through something. That's it. But he already knows what the outcome is. He or she, or I apologize for that,
Yeah.
already knows what the outcome is. You want to see if you want it bad enough, or if you want to get caught up in, oh man, you know what? I was going to go to the club, or I was going to do something that's not righteous. Pause for a minute, just stop. I don't know, cause I've had to kind of lighten up the way that I talk sometimes because again, I know this isn't part of really the art scene, but being a master barber, I've had women and some men, drop their sons off to me like, yo, D, I don't know what to do with him, man. Like he's just not getting it, or she's just not. And I'm like, first thing I tell them is like, yo, I don't talk the way you talk. You know that, right? No, we know, Dave, we know. Like, all right, as long as you know. Cause like we started this conversation, I ain't got time to fuck around, man.
Mhm.
you know. So, and
Yeah.
but again, coming from a large family, coming from a great city, Syracuse, New York, being able to take advantage of opportunities to be the first black in so many different arenas, but just having the skill set of being able to sit down and look at, observe my environment, and no matter where I am,
Yeah.
and look at people's faces, look at their body movements and stuff like that, and wonder why are people going through stuff like that, or why is Adrienne skipping down the street middle of lunchtime like she doesn't have a care in the world, but
Yeah.
then the next view is an older white person with a gray beard sitting on the bus stop, homeless. Like I'm that type of curious, and
Yeah.
I don't always convey it the best way, but I try to through my artwork or even through speaking make it relative to everybody.
Yeah. That's you're an observer. And I'm thinking as you're talking, that makes you really laid back. You're curious, and that feeds into your consciousness and what you're creating.
Yeah. I've also been called very opinionated also though. So don't give me too much credit on the left.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having an opinion as long as we're open. I've been called that too.
Right, right. So
I
yeah,
mean, we should have thoughts.
supposed to.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
verbalize them. Everybody won't like them. Everybody won't hate them.
Do you feel like you're a healer or a seeker as in terms of spirituality, your relationship with God, and as a person?
Um, I'm not a healer. I'm a person that may be able to provide options of how put when it comes to perspective, but in no way am I a healer because I can't see you all the way through that process. You know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe it's just something you say to a person, with those words of wisdom or that frankness that you
It
say.
does go a long way, but you got some people that don't listen. You can sit there and talk for 3 hours and drop gems on them, and you thinking like, yo, I'm really making a difference. And then an hour later, they back doing the same shit.
Yeah,
And so it's like you kind of wasted your time. But then there's other people. I've talked maybe two people out of committing suicide,
really.
and I had to spaz out on them, like because I was offended that you would call me in this type of um, situation, and you expect me to just be calm and cool. Nah, um, I do seek out mindsets that can be helpful to other people that are in my world, clientele, friends, whatever. Um, More of like a connector, but that's
Mm,
that's kind of I can talk to you and get the information that I need, and I may not have what it is that you need, but I may know somebody that does.
yeah. And when you mentioned about talking people out of suicide and how spazzing out, is that like you're trying to wake them up, like shake them in a way, like to wake up to get out of that space and see things differently, or how did you mean it?
I didn't mean it like that. I meant it like, yo, who are you to be calling me so much you're gonna kill yourself? Because you know how many people are gonna miss you.
Mhm.
You know how selfish of an act that is. You're not going through the worst thing in life that nobody else has not went through, and like it's a shock value. Like I ain't telling you not to do it. I'm telling you if you do it, this is going to be the consequence.
Yeah.
And eventually, we might get to a little more subtle part of the conversation or whatever. But in those two instances, yeah, I was pissed off.
Yeah.
I was smoking hot. Yeah, but you know, being able to, I guess, be present in that capacity is a connection with God. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was more fearful of this person actually going through with the act, and I probably would have responded a different way. But I have certain thoughts on how certain things play out, supposed to play out. So I'm
Mhm.
like, the fact that you picked up the phone shows me you don't really want to do that. So let me
Mm.
reinforce to you why you really don't want to do that.
Right. Right. Right.
This ain't a
Yeah.
movie. The lights ain't coming back on.
That's the truth. Not in this form.
Word.
That is the truth. So, tell me about the painting that's behind you.
Oh, this painting is actually a lot bigger than what it looks. The camera isn't wide enough, but this painting is maybe 8 feet by 5 feet,
Mhm.
so it's huge. But this is a painting I did back when I had the art gallery, and I started getting back into my abstract, building up the layers and just adding little things to where I was intentionally trying to confuse people. So I add a little bit of portraiture right here, but then I'll add symbols, a little few animals right here. Nothing too detailed, but something where in one visual you're reading um, different elements, different symbols and stuff like that. So
Did you name
I'll
it?
take a picture of it and send it to you though.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask you if it's on your website or social
No,
media.
this one isn't. No,
What's it called?
I have no idea. I forgot. Like, and that's one of the things. The funny thing is about me. I typically don't title most of my works until after maybe 20 people have looked at it. Some of them I do. I just came out with my first ebook co-written by me and my daughter, 2-year-old daughter, and it's called The Seeds.
The Seeds.
The Seeds.
Say
Yeah.
more. Say more.
What it is basically a compilation of various works of art, original works that I've done over the years. But each page is a page of motivational art formations, not affirmations, but art formations. And it's just things that you can read it to your younger kid, you can read it to yourself, niece and nephew, and they're like little, um, just little phrase. I don't want to call it poetry, but it's like little phrases of affirmation. Because one thing our daughter says she look right at you, right? Are you happy? I'm like, she asks that at least four or
Mm.
5 times a day. From a kid's perspective, what do they know about happiness? But being an adult, how much happiness have you actually experienced or achieved? So, again, with me, I just want to help everybody get through the day.
That's an amazing, deep question for a 2-year-old to ask.
Yeah,
Very, very deep.
and she'll
And
look you in your eyes with a straight face and ask you that.
yeah, wow. Wow. I'm a little speechless. I'm thinking things that I don't want people to think I'm, crazy. But a lot of people believe that, we existed before we came here. And then when the longer we're here, the longer or the more we get away from that knowing of who we really are,
Mm,
as in spirits, the idea of us being spirits having a human experience. And so little kids, will often say these profound things, and you can wonder, where did that come from? But it's because they're so close to being pure spirit. And
exactly.
for her to ask you that is so deep to me,
Hmm.
and not just one time. Are you
No,
happy?
that's part of that's part of her um, vocabulary, along with no, I don't like it. Not to belittle it, nothing like that, but her vocabulary is quite extensive at too. But that is what she's intentful on asking at any
Yeah,
given part of the day.
I
You know,
love it. I love it. I love it. So you have an event coming up, don't you? Or tell me about a couple of events you might have coming.
I have two. I have a live painting event tomorrow at the Whitley in Buckhead, July 25th, 7 to 9 p.m. Live band, live painting. The food is incredible. And tomorrow I'm gonna unveil one of my more recent abstract pieces. Um, it's a real good time. It's very luxurious, elegant, low key. You might see a little bit of everybody there, all different cultures, but it's a very good time. You will have a great time. Just relax and unload and let your hair down, and just enjoy the scenery. And
Hey,
then January 29th, I'm doing a live painting with the United Negro College Fund.
July 29th, you mean?
July 29th. Oh, what did I say? June?
I, I think you might have said January, but I might have heard you wrong.
Hey, well, I will say this: my attention span isn't as long as it used to be, so pardon me on that. But yeah, July 29th. I think that's from 4:30 to 7, but that does require RSVP. And if you go on the United Negro College Fund's website, they'll show you all of the information, stuff like that. So this year is Dr. Lomax's, the president of USC, his 20th um, year anniversary. So this is going to be a nice little challenge. Challenge
And the Whitley you have been at often in the past.
since December 2023.
Okay. Okay. And I want to let people know that you often go to other cities for events, don't you?
For events, for murals, maybe a speaking um, platform, things like that. But I'm working to expand that into something internationally. So I'm working diligently. Having fun meeting new people. I can't wait to start working with other artists in various forms on whatever level, just to
Right.
gain, inspiration, if they can be motivated by me and just keep it moving. You
Yeah.
know, my son is an incredible artist who's growing rapidly in his skill set. Our daughter she's taught maybe 4 or 5 art classes online with me, and she
Is,
loves drawing.
is your wife an artist too?
She's an artist when it comes to uh, what's the word I'm looking for? With putting the numbers together and the system, how it starts and how it ends and stuff like that. I don't know if I've ever seen her draw. I guess that could
she,
probably sum it up.
she has an organized mind, sounds like.
Yes, yes, yes. But she's a lot of fun. We have
Yeah.
fun together. So
And what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
I would say first go to my website, decoroart.com. There's a contact page there, and there's also a way that you can see some of the things that I'm working on. Others would be social media, in which all of them are pretty much Dakoro Art, DAKOROART. Um, and then my YouTube channel is just simply capital DAKORO, Dakoro.
And I haven't been on your YouTube channel. Now I have to go. So it's what's going on your YouTube channel?
I'm not as experienced in the YouTube world as I would like to be, but I'm getting there again with my creation of my new ebooks and stuff like that. I'm just creating a sales platform. But I'm trying to be more open. I'm trying to show more of myself. That's uncomfortable. You know?
Yeah, yeah. It takes some getting used to. So you're trying to be more transparent and speak to who the artist is, the core.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. I got to get used to that. So me, I'm silly though. I'm silly. If you watch some of my old videos, me dancing in the gallery or little things like that, where I know the camera's there, but I'm not paying attention to it.
Right.
But me sitting here like, yeah, but nah, I ain't doing that.
Well, I am so happy that you did this, and I hope we do it again. I just really thank you for being on Let's Start Healing.
Thank you for the platform, Adrian. Again, I've been knowing you for quite some time now, and I salute you. Thank you for your diligence. Thank you for seeing your goals and your paths through to create a platform for like myself to come on to and other people. And I know you're just going to continue to do great things. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can listen to all Let's Start Healing podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. That includes YouTube, iHeart, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Remember to share Let's Start Healing with at least one person that you know. And until next time, let's start healing.